Today, we're going to tackle one of the most demanding regulatory hurdles out there, the FDA's pre-market approval process, the PMA, for high-risk medical devices. So if you're in the business of creating a life-saving tech, you're definitely in the right place.
Okay, let's kick things off with a number that should really grab your attention. A staggering 70% of initial PMA submissions get rejected by the FDA. Yeah, you heard that right, 70%. That one number tells you everything you need to know about why getting this right from day one is absolutely non-negotiable.
So how do we make sure you're in that successful 30%? Well, we've mapped out the whole journey for you. We're going to start with what a PMA actually is, then we'll walk through the entire process, talk about the absolute cornerstone of your compliance, that's your QMS, then we'll cover the common mistakes to avoid, and wrap up with some really practical tips to make your submission a whole lot smoother.
Okay, so first up, the high-stakes approval. Let's really dig into what pre-market approval is all about and, maybe more importantly, who it's for.
So what is a PMA? It's basically the FDA's highest level of review. It's the most rigorous, most demanding process they have. And this isn't like some other submissions where you're just comparing your device to something already on the market. Nope. With a PMA, you're starting from scratch. You have to provide a literal mountain of scientific evidence to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that your device is both safe and effective. End of story. So who actually has to go through this? Well, we're talking about what are called Class 3 devices. These are the big ones, the highest risk category you can get. Think about things like pacemakers, defibrillators, heart valves. You get the idea. I mean, these are devices that literally sustain or support human life. And that's exactly why the FDA's microscope is dialed up to the max on these submissions. The stakes just couldn't be higher. Okay, so we know what it is, and we know the stakes are sky high. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty, mapping out the actual PMA journey. And trust me, getting a Class 3 device to market is a total marathon, not a sprint. You've got to navigate every single step with incredible care. This whole expedition, you can really break it down into 4 distinct phases. And you'll see here, each one logically builds on the one before it. So let's walk through this path. Everything kicks off with what's called a pre-submission. This is where you actually meet with the FDA to get on the same page about your strategy. Once you've got that alignment, you move on to getting an investigational device exemption, an IDE. That's your golden ticket to start testing on humans in clinical trials. Then comes the really heavy lifting, the data collection phase. I'm talking all the data, preclinical stuff, technical specs, your QMS info, everything. And only after all that are you ready to bundle it all together for that final, intense review by the FDA. All right, let's talk about the absolute cornerstone of this whole thing, your quality management system, or QMS. And I really want to be clear here. This is so much more than just paperwork. It's the operational backbone, the very foundation of your entire project. And here's the key takeaway, something you have to get your head around. The FDA doesn't just review your device. No, they are reviewing the entire system you use to create it. They're looking at your processes, your controls, your documentation. Basically, they're approving how you got to the final product just as much as the product itself.
What you can really see here is that a QMS isn't some separate step you just bolt on at the end. It's not a checkbox. It has to be woven into the very fabric of your development lifecycle, from the earliest research and design ideas all the way through to your launch and even what happens after the device is on the market. This is exactly why having a powerful digital QMS can be such a game changer, because it makes that integration happen naturally.
And get this, as part of the PMA process, the FDA will actually show up at your door. They're going to inspect your manufacturing facilities. And when they're there, they're not just looking around. They expect to see rock-solid, documented proof of control over all these critical areas. Your risk management, your design controls, your CAPAs, everything. Okay, let's go back to that scary 70% rejection rate for a second. How do you avoid becoming a statistic? Well, one of the best ways is to learn from the mistakes of others. So let's dive into the most common pitfalls that trip people up. Seriously, paying attention here could save you a ton of time and money. Mistake number 1, and this probably won't come as a surprise, is treating your quality system like an afterthought. It's something people think they can just tack on at the end. But if your QMS isn't built in and mature from the very beginning, all the data you submit is just going to be built on a shaky foundation, and the FDA will see right through it.
All right, mistake number 2, inconsistent information. A PMA submission is a beast. It's a massive document. So imagine you're the FDA reviewer, and you see a number in one section, and then you see a slightly different number for the same thing 100 pages later. It's a huge red flag. It immediately makes them question everything. It completely torpedoes your credibility.
And here's another one that gets people into trouble: incomplete trial information. You can't just send in the highlights or a summary of your clinical data. The FDA wants the whole story, the raw deal. They want to see the full protocols, the data for every single person in the trial, every single adverse event report. If you hold anything back, it's a one-way ticket to getting your submission delayed, for sure. Now, what's really interesting is that not all mistakes are super technical. One of the costliest ones is actually really simple. It's about leaving a huge pile of cash on the table. You see, the FDA offers some pretty significant fee waivers, and you'd be shocked at how many companies just don't take advantage of them. Okay, just look at these numbers. The standard fee for a PMA submission is almost $600,000. But, and this is a huge but, if your company makes less than $100 million a year, you can qualify as a small business. And look at what that does to the fee. It drops it all the way down to under 145 grand. That's a savings of over $435,000, all for filling out a simple form. It's just, wow, that is a crazy amount of money to just leave behind. All right, so let's bring this all home. I want to leave you with some really practical tips to help you get this done faster and more efficiently. Because, the goal isn't just to get approved eventually, it's to get it right the first time and get your amazing device to the people who need it as quickly as possible. And if there's one word to sum all this up, it's proactivity. First, document as you go. Don't try to recreate your paper trail at the end. Build your design and risk documentation as you're actually developing the device. Second, talk to the FDA. Use their Q submission program to communicate early and often. It's the best way to avoid nasty surprises down the road. Third, make good clinical practice the absolute center of your universe during trials. And finally, look to the future. The FDA has a new QMSR model coming into effect in 2026. Get aligned with it now before you're forced to. You see a pattern here, right? It all comes back to that QMS. At the end of the day, a faster, more controlled, more successful submission isn't about luck. It's a direct result of having best-in-class quality and compliance from the start. And that's why investing in a really solid, compliant quality management system, especially a modern digital one, isn't an expense. It's the foundation you build your entire success on. So, we'll leave you with this question to think about. Your life-saving device is ready. Your innovation is brilliant. But is your QMS? Because that incredible technology is really only half the battle. It's the quality and integrity of your process that actually delivers that innovation to the patients who need it most.